Eric Smith in the morning.
Your county.
Your station.
Bit of light rain or drizzle to start with today, and then it's going to be a nice spring day again. Bit of sunshine, can't be bad. 8 Celsius, 46 degrees Fahrenheit. Down to -3 tonight. Bit of frost in the morning, might be a bit of fog around as well. And then a little bit of cloud to start with tomorrow, but some sunshine again, and it might hit 9 degrees tomorrow. A couple of nice spring days then, and then a little bit more unsettled towards the weekend. Janelle will be here with the weather forecast for you in a few minutes' time at 7:15. Shropshire Council set to approve a new planning application from the big Tesco Extra store in Shrewsbury after it admitted selling more non-food goods than it should. The original planning permission said that only 32% of the floor space at the Harlescott store could be used for things like clothes and tellies and cosmetics, what the industry calls comparison goods. The new application increases this a little bit to 38.6%, but it's caused concerns about the impact it might have on shops on the high street. One of those worried is Shropshire Councillor for Shrewsbury Town Centre, Maxwell, Winchester. Our reporter Mark Jakes caught up with him in the town square and began by asking when he first heard that Tesco had breached its original planning application.
I heard when one of my constituents had told me, and they had gone into the store and actually counted tiles and calculated the proportion that was allocated to non-food goods.
When you have out-of-town stores like Tesco setting up, what impact does it have here on the town centre?
Well, the empirical research actually suggests that it does have an impact. And if you put, say, a Tesco in the town centre, it can help regenerate the town centre. But by having out-of-town superstores like we have here, you are actually taking business away from the town centre. And the evidence we've even had in Shrewsbury agrees with that. We've had 19 stores closed, plus many more since the report that we're talking about has been done. There was a retail report.
Since the Tesco in Harlescott opened?
Before the recession and after they opened, the estimate is that 19 stores have closed. And, there's no doubt there'll be many more if these out-of-town superstores are allowed to get bigger.
What do you say to those people that point out that Tesco is very popular, the car park's always very full, and lots of people do like to do their shopping at places like Tesco Extra, where everything's under one roof?
Yes, there is that argument. But unfortunately, the reverse argument is that as more out-of-town retailers grow, they take more town business, but also they are able to predatory price targeting certain businesses in town.
Traditionally, Shrewsbury's a market town. We're standing literally where a thriving market would have once been. Do you think it's just moving with the times to have out-of-town stores?
I think if that's where we're headed, then God help us. I just have to look down the road at Telford, and no offence to people who live there, but it's not a place I'd want to live. I chose Shrewsbury because it's one of the most beautiful towns in the world.
Councillor Winchester, what do you say to the notion that Tesco is allowed to increase its percentage from its original planning application because the definition of comparison goods has changed?
Well, I think that's a load of rubbish. They're choosing to use a definition of comparison goods that suits them. So I do take exception to that. It was at a public inquiry. The community won for it not to be built, and it was the Secretary of State who turned that decision over and allowed it to be built and then set a series of conditions. The reason I approached Daniel Kawczynski is because it is one of the Secretary of State's conditions that is being breached in this case.
So the whole issue of retrospective planning needs to be looked at and altered?
Well, I think the whole issue of enforcement needs to be looked at and altered. If some of my constituents here in town with small restaurants or small shops put out an A board, they end up with enforcement action taken against them. It is within the council's power to close down Tesco if they are in breach of a condition. We could have taken other action against them. This is an indication of the intimidation that large organisations pose on councils.
Do you think it's the council buckling to the big organisation, Tesco in this case?
I daren't put those words in officers' mouths, but I think there is perhaps intimidation going on. Otherwise, I would have thought some enforcement would have taken place.
That's Councillor Maxwell, Winchester, talking to our reporter Mark Jakes. Well, we've had a statement from the council about this, and here is part of it.
Our retail consultants have examined and analysed the Tesco proposal. They consider that the amount of additional comparison floor space concerned is limited and is unlikely to have a significant adverse impact on the overall vitality and viability of the town centre. Officers have recommended this application for approval as it's felt that this will help to maintain planning control over the type of goods sold from the store and hence the viability of Shrewsbury Town Centre.
And you can hear what Tesco have got to say about all this a little bit later on.
It's where Shropshire comes
And stay up. Shropshire Council is set to approve a new planning application by Tesco Extra in the Hardscott area of Shrewsbury after it was found that the store was selling more non-food goods than it should. The original planning consent, which said that only 32% of its floor space could be used for comparison goods like clothes, tellies and cosmetics, was breached. Councillors are being recommended to approve the new application to raise this to more than 38%. Shrewsbury MP Daniel Kawczynski is worried about the repercussions for smaller shops in the town and about the issue of revised planning permission.
I'm very concerned that supermarkets with their huge power are able to, first of all, ask for planning permission, then ignore it, not comply with the original application, and then ask for retrospective application. I think that's a serious issue.
Well, Tesco says it was in touch with Shropshire Council as soon as it realised the planning consent had been breached, and the council consultants who've looked into increasing the amount of floor space for things like clothes say the change is unlikely to have a significant impact on the rest of the town. A study of
17 minutes past 8. Jim is mid-morning, of course, between 9 and 12. Then Colin Young at lunchtime, 12 until 2 today. Back now to a bit of a row surrounding the big Tesco Extra store on the outskirts of Shrewsbury. It's all about a retrospective planning application. As you might have heard earlier on, the supermarket giant broke the terms of its original planning permission by selling more non-food goods than it should. Tomorrow, members of Shropshire Council's Central Planning Committee are being recommended to approve new plans which will increase the percentage of floor space set aside for things like clothes and tellies and cosmetics, so-called comparison goods. The original permission was for 32% of the floor space for these non-food items, but under the new application, this increases to 38.6%. We sent our reporter Mark Jakes to the store, where he met the MP for Shrewsbury, Daniel Kawczynski.
I'm standing outside Tesco Extra. I've got the local MP, Daniel Kawczynski, with me at the moment. Daniel, the planning committee are going to look into the new application from Tesco on Thursday, but you've got concerns, haven't you?
Yes, I do, and I've written to the Secretary of State at the Department for Local Government to inform him of this retrospective application and ask him to clarify the legislation in this regard. I'm very concerned that supermarkets with their huge power are able to, first of all, ask for planning permission, then ignore it, not comply with the original application, and then ask for retrospective application. I think that's a serious issue, and it will impact on small stores in Shrewsbury because they are selling far more non-food products here than was originally the case for granting them the planning application.
So you think the whole issue of retrospective planning needs to be changed?
I think in certain cases, for maybe single householders, if they haven't necessarily complied exactly and something has gone wrong or they've had to change things slightly, I think that safety valve of retrospective application should still be there. But for huge supermarkets like this, who basically know what they're doing, they operate all over the United Kingdom, for them to ignore these rules and then retrospectively reapply, I think government should be looking very carefully at that. Originally, the council put in place a stipulation that only a certain amount of their space could be for non-food products, partly because obviously they've got to bear in mind the town centre and the shops in the town centre. Now, if Tesco's have ignored that, then I've got a big concern about it. And I really want, if we're going to pass legislation in Parliament on this issue, I think it has to be complied with.
It must be a very fine line to tread as the local MP, because of course a store of this size does actually create a lot of jobs, doesn't it?
It does, and I'm very grateful for Tesco's for investing on this side. I actually use the supermarket myself on a weekly basis, and I think it's a great facility. But then conversely, I and other people also have a duty to the hundreds of businesses in Shrewsbury town centre, many of whom have gone bust as a result of this recession. And we don't want to have a town centre in Shrewsbury which is totally bereft of small businesses. That's part of the beauty of Shrewsbury. A lot of people come to visit Shrewsbury to do their shopping here. They're not going to travel from all over Shropshire and the West Midlands to come and shop at Tesco's. They like the experience of going and shopping in small shops in the town centre. So I very much hope that we can strike a balance here between ensuring that Tesco's here and selling products does go along with this original planning application.